All right. Aaron LeBlanc writes, what's the difference between science fiction and fantasy?
That is actually a great question, to which a lot of movie fans are saying, that's a stupid question. But no, it's actually a really good question. So I'll let Christian answer it.
I'm just going to tell you that Star Wars is not science fiction. That's all I'm going to say. So it's sci-fi fantasy. So that's combining the two of them, as where science fiction is set more in the real, and with things that possibly could happen, like Star Trek is science fiction. It's based off stuff that that is possibly could happen and evolve. And that's why we get into this conversation all the time about gravity, so I don't want to get into another comment war about gravity. It's not science fiction. It is.
It's very much science fiction.
Yes. But anyway, so I mean, I just think it's more as where fantasy is. If you look at something like Lord of the Rings, obviously a fantasy movie, and if you had a spaceship in Lord of the Rings, it would still be fantasy. I guess that's the best way to do it. To think about it. If you want to put like a fantasy movie, put any movie that you know which is fantasy, whether it be Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or Willow, and start putting spaceships or other sci-fi type mechanisms in that world. That's more sci-fi fantasy than it is just actual science fiction that could happen off of theories and speculation.
Yeah, I mean, I heard this once, that sci-fi, somebody once described it, I wish I remember who it was, as speculative future casting, as where could all this go with with where we're going scientifically, technologically, all that kind of stuff. Where could that all lead us in the future, whatever. That's why a lot of people hold up Star Trek as like the ultimate example of sci-fi. I thought, there's been a lot of great sci-fi movies, and fantasy is, you're right, is more like the Lord of the Rings, the Dungeons and Dragons. It's the pure fantasy. It's the pure mythical. It's the pure whatever. Whereas sci-fi, and that's then you get into issues like Star Wars, where you're right, where there's a lot of sci-fi / fantasy as well. So how would you define it?
I think you guys are nerds. Where's the gym? You can get in semantic debates about this. Like, what is Lord of the Rings primarily, or what is Star Wars primarily? Just don't forget to enjoy the movie. When I was a kid, we used to have to go to a place to rent movies. You couldn't just do it on Netflix, so I'd go to Video Update, and Star Wars was always in the science fiction section. Why? Because there was no fantasy section. So that's how I always look at it. I acknowledge that Star Wars is primarily a fantasy. The movie starts with, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which is like Once Upon a Time. It's a fantasy movie. Labyrinth is a fantasy movie. Lord of the Rings, fantasy movie. Science fiction is more like what you said, Star Trek, stuff like that. But you can combine, I think there's a lot of films that combine both of those elements. So let's just enjoy the movies and not worry about what to label them.
Children of Men, sci-fi.
Yeah.
Hey guys, if you like this clip, click here to watch the entire episode. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because it'll help you stay up to date with all the stuff we've got going on here at Collider.